Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second installment of Community Voices. This week's topic is Innovative Ideas for 2022, and it is sponsored by Butterfly. We have a really stellar panel with us today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with them. So I'm going to have them all introduce themselves. Dave, let's start with you.
Sure. Thank you for having me here today, Taylor. My name's Dave Brown. I'm the president and CEO of the Capital District YMCA, which is located in Albany, New York.
Awesome. Adam?
Hi, pleasure to be here as well. My name is Adam Shilling. I'm the CEO of the Buckeye Valley Family YMCA. We're located just east of Columbus here in Ohio. We are a 3 membership branch facility, and we have around 12 or so offsite locations for childcare and other related programming.
Addie?
I'm Addie Goodman, president and CEO of JCC Chicago, located in Chicago. And like my colleague on the screen here, we're a system of multiple locations, about a dozen, however you cut it, from the far northwest suburbs down to the south side of the city.
And Carrie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carrie Ohorodnyk. I'm the executive director of the Rosie Schneider Family YMCA in Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. I'm just about 30 minutes north of Pittsburgh. Our association is made up of 2 membership branches as well as a park.
Awesome. Well, thank you all again for joining me. So the topic is innovative ideas for 2022. And I think a lot of facilities, as everyone else in the world, has been kind of struggling for almost 2 years now. It's crazy that it's almost been 2 years. So what we're first going to jump into is kind of what is your organization's plan to attract and engage members in the new year? I know a lot of facilities are really wanting to get more people through the door than ever before. So kind of what are your strategies to make that happen? And Addie, we'll start with you.
So I'm probably a little bit of an outlier in this space, but our innovation has really been to completely revamp what we think of in terms of fitness membership, recognizing it as a community engagement strategy connected to all of the other things that we do as a community center. So our innovation coming out of the pandemic was to lower our membership rates to $36 a person per month, or a max of 72. As a Jewish organization, the number 18 has some meaning. So the multiples of 18 have some meaning in the community. That we think it is already proving to be a entry level, even sort of a token gift to participate in the community. We did slim our fitness footprint down a bit, but still very high quality, gorgeous locker rooms, towel service, all the stuff at really what we would call a easy, low barrier rate to be part of our community. And that has in fact proven to stabilize our membership, and we're seeing some folks attracted to that price point.
Awesome. Adam, what about you? What are your strategies to engage members?
Yeah, and so the attract and engage, I broke that down. And so when I think about attract, I can tell you that our goal for next year is to grow membership by 8%. And so we're looking to add 8% more units sort of month over month compared to where we were at in 2021. And we're going to do that in 3 main areas. So number 1, we're adding some virtual components to our membership. We've signed on with a virtual platform and will be a value added option to our traditional membership. As well as we're launching a virtual membership. So for folks who still are not yet comfortable coming back into our facilities, or are traveling, or for whatever reason want to have that exercise at home and not in the facility, we'll have that virtual membership as an option. Our second area is we're taking a look at our financial assistance program, and we are going to make sure that anyone who is desiring to be a member of the Y is able to access it. So we've streamlined a few things with our financial assistance and made it easier to go through that process so we can help the folks in the community who are really in most need of assistance. And then third, we are looking at our corporate membership as well as our Christian emphasis program to seek ways to find more opportunities to engage with corporate employers as well as faith-based organizations. From an engagement standpoint, I've challenged our 3 branch operators at each of our locations to host one event per month to attract new people into the facility. Because I think it's really important for us to open our doors to the community and be seen as a place, a location, a destination for folks to come and experience all of the wide variety of different things that we have to offer. And so that's really our main strategies for attracting and engaging the community in the coming year.
Awesome. You mentioned virtual, and that's definitely a topic we'll get into later in the conversation. Carrie, what about you? What are kind of your strategies for the next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as engagement piece goes, our association is down about 30% in membership. So we realize that that's probably going to be our baseline for a while now, and we're not going to see much growth because since we've opened, we've only seen an uptick of about 3 or 4% in those numbers. So really where we've succeeded is programs. Well, I'm at 100% where I was in 2019 as far as programs go. So really maximizing on anything to do with children as well as families. And we have a million special events and stuff here. We have 450 people registered for Brunch with Santa that's coming up. We had 600 people for our trunk or treat event. So just getting those community events going and engaging that way. Where we've also seen some success is I'm looking down my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything, is assisted living and 55 plus neighborhoods. So, when we look at engagement of members, it doesn't need to be the ones that are in our building, right? It can be offsite and things like that, which has been a huge change in the trends over the years for WISE, is to get offsite. And so we're actually working within a few of the assisted living places and independent living to offer fitness classes there, land and water, because those folks, they don't know how to hire group exercise instructors. They don't know how to hire water fitness instructors. So they've been hiring us, and then we provide the classes at those facilities, as well as now these 55 plus neighborhoods. Traditions of America is a big one that's kind of all over the area. I'd imagine it's nationwide. I'm not sure what Traditions of America, I would assume it would be. But we have a couple of them popping up in this area here, and they have a small gym within their community center and stuff in their neighborhood. And a lot of them are now wanting personal training within those centers. So we started doing that as well. And then we're looking at different promotions. So, our big grab was always to waive our joining fee, or which here we call the development fee. And really that's all the Y really had to do, because we didn't discount membership. The only way we did that was through our scholarship program. So we are looking at different promotions because we've realized that isn't even, people aren't even joining under the free. They're actually more so joining now if they have to pay a little bit more. So if you have Daxco operations as part of your membership software, they now have pay the day promotion. So say you're doing pay the day in January. On January 1st, you pay $1 to join. The second, you pay $2, $3, $4, $5. So it pays to join earlier in the month than it does later in the month, but still your max is $30, $31, depending upon the month that you run it. That was very successful for us. We're also doing join in 2022 for $22. So the development fee will be $22 in January. 12 days of Christmas next year is kind of like another pay the day, where on the 12th day before Christmas starts at $12 and 13, 14, 15, all the way up to when we would close on the day before Christmas Eve. So we have that going, and in conjunction with what Adam said, focusing on those corporate members. So we have a corporate 25 program where if organizations give to our annual support campaign $2,500 annually, their employees get 25% off membership, as well as 25% off our chronic disease prevention programs. But we're trying to do a feeder program to that. So we'll be launching what we're calling Professional Pass, where it's basically just a free month for certain organizations to be able to come in and like try before you buy kind of thing. So while they're here, we'll be giving them marketing materials, because the hardest part, and Adam might be able to talk on this too, is really identifying the right person at these organizations to talk to, because sometimes it's HR Sometimes it's finance, sometimes it's an ops person. It just depends. Sometimes it's corporate, sometimes it's low, so it really depends. Where we want to get the information in the employees' hands so they can go to their employer and be like, hey, we need to be doing this, and give the heat from the ground up, basically on that. But if the employer doesn't want to do it, at least what we'll do is each visit that they have, they get 10% off of the development fee for that month. So they could end up at least joining without paying a development fee at the end of it, based on their visitation. So that's really kind of a lot of the acquisition stuff, more so than engagement, but started with that a little bit.
Awesome. Sounds like you have a lot of great ideas coming up. Dave, what about you? How are you going to attract and engage members?
I need to hire these people to come to the Albany. They got some great ideas. We're doing a lot of similar things. We are doing the virtual option for our members. We are also trying to increase our programming. We're finding that programs are what are attracting groups of people back, getting people into groups, having center of gravity for folks creates more energy. So we're starting to see our numbers creep back a little bit. We're actually below 50% of where we were January of 2020. So we've seen a very slow return to our YMCA operations. And we also have 4 locations still closed. We were a 13 location YMCA pre-COVID, $40 million budget, 100,000 plus members. So imagine losing more than 50% of that when you do open. And we were closed for, I think, 9 months. And when we could reopen, it was under a mask mandate, which I think that lasted for 3 or 4 months. So we had a lot of things happen that really didn't give people the incentive to come back into the YMCA, and still having locations closed isn't helping. But the challenge for us has been being able to find staff to work. And we've had a real difficult time finding instructors, which really drive those classes, as well as our professional staff. So much of what's already been said, we've been doing those things. We've run membership campaigns. In fact, we have one in January, and we give people different incentives to be a part of the Y. We are seeing the needle move in the right direction, but we have really said for the rest of 2021, and really for most of 2022, our main objective is to survive. This is the first time that we've seen all of our branches operate in the red from the membership perspective. Typically, we had some of our urban branches or Ys that are in rural areas be more in the red, but now all of our operations are in the red. And so for us, it's a lot about how do we manage being in the red and not having such a cash burn rate that we would have to close down more operations.
Well, Dave, after talking to you a few times this past year, I have full faith that you'll be able to survive.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
You did touch on one hot topic that a lot of people in the industry have been talking about, which is staffing. A lot of industries, including this one, have been facing a lot of staffing struggles. So I kind of want to know, how are each one of your facilities addressing the topic? Are there any unique strategies you have? Or are you just trying to survive and get as many people as you can on your team? Kind of what are your strategies? And Addie, I'll start with you on this one.
Sure. So I shared a little bit about how we slimmed our fitness footprint and lowered our fees. Again, really recognizing that for us as a community center, fitness is also a community engagement opportunity in addition to health and wellness. We are seeing tremendous and deep interest in group exercise classes, really the community connection getting together. So in addition to slimming the physical footprint of our exercise free weights areas, we've also slimmed our management. We had a management partner that was local to Chicago, and we've really reduced, if it almost eliminated, that extra staff specific to fitness. So the person who manages that area of fitness and coordinates the schedule as the building manager now. So for us, that fitness center was losing $250,000 even before the pandemic. It was relatively new for us. It was only built 5 or 6 years ago, and we just weren't achieving the membership unit rate we needed to. By making this change for our current operations, we've swung the needle $350,000 into the positive. So now we're netting a healthy 6-figure margin, which wasn't the case before. And it really took us really thinking differently. And I think, like Carrie shared, it really is a lot about programs. That fitness floor of that new facility now is welcome home to special events in the community, private family celebrations and milestone events, a variety of rentals that we're able to run, and we can generate additional revenue beyond our fitness footprint that we really didn't have access to before. So I think the pandemic has opened our eyes to being bold about decision-making and being okay with radical change for the bottom line. But I think in this case also, really the connection between community members and the ability to drive people to the space with a variety of programs, events, and activities of interest to them that they're comfortable and in need of right now.
Awesome. Dave, let's go back to you. How is your facility handling staffing, and kind of, are you rethinking it for 2022? What strategies are you going to implement?
So one of the strategies that we've implemented is we've hired a HR recruiter. And so we have a full-time person that's going to job fairs, community fairs, and actively recruiting people, selling people on the benefit of working at the YMCA, all the different benefits that come with employment with us, and working with colleges as well. That's one thing that we've done. Another thing that we've done, which is a challenge given the fact that we need to generate more revenue, but we've looked at the salaries. And so increasing what our wages look like, particularly in the part-time and full-time areas, so that maybe there's more incentive for people that way around pay. And we have dabbled with sign-on bonuses, you know, in childcare in particular, and working at our front desk. Those are two areas where we really have used that, and we've had modest success with that. But I would tell you, it has not been the solution to all of this for us. Another strategy that we've looked at is, can we make jobs bigger for people so that we could pay them more money and promotion and title, so that this is something where they say, wow, this would be a great opportunity for me. And we hopefully would be able to retain them longer because it's the right title and the right salary. Again, with all of those things, we've had mixed, you know, reviews, inconsistency. We've had highs and we've had lows.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Carrie, what about you?
It's our two main areas that we've struggled the most with are lifeguards and childcare. And I think that's pretty common amongst a lot of community rec organizations. But as far as the lifeguards go, it's really about trying to work through feeder programs like swim team, you know, in camp, even our camp counselors, and trying to get them involved in lifeguarding and kind of move them through the process, as well as camp staff for childcare staff, and converting them over the summer and whenever they graduate and things of that nature to kind of move them along through the process. But we've done, I think a big hurdle is the lifeguard certification. I mean, it's over $200, you know, they're 15, 16, 17 years old, and you got it paid before you even get paid. So it can be cumbersome. So we've looked at lifeguard reimbursement. So where it helps with us retention wise, like you pay for it, but then if you're an employee for 6 months, you get half of that cost back in a bonus form, something like that. We've also looked at current employees, if they're willing to get certified as a lifeguard, that we would pay for the entire thing for them to do that if they're current staff. We're looking more, instead of sign-on bonuses, more retention bonuses on that side of things. So, and then one of the bigger things that we're doing, I guess, is just trying to focus on the benefits side of things, especially for full-time staff, excuse me, We have tremendous retirement benefits here. So, you know, you might not get paid as much as you would like to if you're working in for-profit, as we all would love to, but the side of that is retirement. And then for childcare staff, we actually, well, it's not even just childcare staff, but childcare, if you're a full-time staff in our association, your first child gets free childcare. Your second child and any additional get half off from there. So that was a big jump that we made. And I feel like it's really helped with the retention, not necessarily bringing new folks in, but the retention. So, but we've also just started kind of marketing that whenever we're, you know, trying to recruit and pushing that. So we'll see how that goes. But just like Dave said, it all helps in some way, but it's certainly not solving the crisis we're all in right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. You did mention benefits, excuse me. And I have been talking to some health club owners, and what they've been doing is looking at like top 10 companies globally and looking at all their benefits and then comparing what the gyms offer to the top 10. And for many operators, it was really eye-opening because their benefits were kind of bare minimum. And they were like, well, do you want to work for us? No. So just taking a look at benefits and seeing how that could revamp has been very beneficial for a lot of gyms. Adam, what about you? What are your staffing strategies?
Yeah, and so I echo a lot of the same strategies that we've already heard. And you know, with my position here, I've been the CEO of the SWI since March of this year. So I'm still in a learning process and still, you know, understanding my organization and the community that I'm living in. And so one of the things that I've gone ahead and done is we did a staff survey, and to help me understand just the needs and wants and where we're doing well and where we can, you know, improve upon from our full-time staff's perspective. And one of the things was recognition, that we could do a little bit better job of recognizing our current staff. And so, you know, when Carrie talks about, you know, making sure we don't forget about the staff that we currently have, you know, that is something that we are going to focus on in the coming year. And so just from a basic standpoint, we're developing a staff engagement committee. And we're going to have a group of folks from all our locations and departments working to make sure that we're really doing everything we can to be of best service to the current employees that we have. And so a great snapshot of that. Totally out of character for me. 2 jobs ago, I was in a research department, right? And so the few days before Thanksgiving, I visited every site that we had, and I put on like a big turkey hat. And I went and just visited all of our team members, and I had a big bucket full of candy and chocolate and just went around and said thank you and showed some appreciation and gratitude for the work that they're putting in and day out. And so just like little things like that may not be a grand big strategy, but if I can lead by example and help the team members that are working, you know, at the Y here, you see that this is a great way to show gratitude for the people that are just putting it in day after day. Hopefully that can lead to some culture change, and folks will see that recognition from our current, you know, staff leadership. Another thing that we've done is we've gone ahead and worked through a salary administration plan. So we worked with an HR consultant and repointed the jobs that we have across our organization, adjusted some grade levels for a few positions that we felt needed to have a little bit stronger pay because job conditions change. We hadn't gone through a salary administration planning in a formal sense for 6 or 7 years as an organization. And so responsibilities change, they ebb and flow over time. And so we recalibrated. The state of Ohio is having a minimum wage increase effective January 1st. And so we're going to be ahead of where our state minimum is. My pledge to my team and the community here is that by 2025, I want to have every employee that's working at the Y at the state of Ohio's livable wage, which is $13.50. And so we are working to get there, but it can't be overnight. It will take time. And so we're making measured progress towards that. From a recruitment standpoint, we are also doing sign-on bonuses. And in fact, we started pushing that out for summer day camp for 2022 already. So those communications have already gone out. And we started with the staff that we had from this previous year. I can tell you, I was with a site operator last week, and she had said that she has more than 50% of her staff already committed from last year to return. And so that's fantastic, because in my organization, within summer day camp, we had more than 200 kids on a wait list last summer because we just didn't have enough counselors. And so the earlier we can get counselors involved with a program like summer day camp, the more kids we can have off that waiting list involved in a fun activity during the summer, so that they're not going through summer learning loss, and they're staying physically active, and they're making friends and building that sense of belonging to a larger community. And the second area from an attraction standpoint is, I know that the Y is a first employer for a lot of folks. We tend to have a lot of staff that are younger, in teenagers in high school or even in college, and we're the first job for a lot of folks. And so working with our board to help them understand that and help them advocate in the community for the Y as a place of employment, and working with colleges, universities, and high schools. And so meeting with superintendents as well as other educational leaders to have them help open doors within their respective schools, so that my team are able to enter in and just really talk about all of the different opportunities we have for employment. We often say the Y is the best kept secret in a community, and I'm trying to dispel that and really just get the word out that we are here, and we're open, and anyone who wants to come and work and is ready, we got opportunities to roll up your sleeves and get involved.
I want to touch on one thing you said, which is recognition. And I think a lot of facilities can get overwhelmed. Like, I don't have more money to pay these people. But recognition can go a long way. And I know, talking to many operators, their first job was at a JCC or a YMCA, or they attended child camp at YMCA or JCC, and now they are CEOs. So I think recognition and just having that culture at all of your facilities is a good starting point. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and go into trends. I know ACSM releases top trends for each year. Our company is kind of waiting to see what their ideas of the top trends will be, but I'm really interested in what the operators of these facilities think the top trends will be for next year. So Addie, let's start with you. Kind of what are you looking at for 2022?
I think that what, again, really being anchored in the concept of community and what that means. I think that our MO right now is what I position delight and surprise. So it applies to staff recruitment and recognition. It applies to the experience a person has in or outside of our facility, what the communication feels like and what it shares. Really helping our community members be partners with us in the work and the pathway that we're on. So for example, our day camp counselors, we run 9-day camps, and we hire about 1,000 kids a summer. And we're letting folks know that you're going to sign on, we're going to pay you more this year, but this also really is positioned as a paid internship. You're going to get a reference letter at the end of the summer that discusses the core accomplishments you've had. We all know that being a camp counselor is the best training ground for any high level job, really. All of the boardroom skills that you acquire over the summer, helping kids see that and then recognizing that in partnership with them, so they can then ladder on. Donuts and holiday celebrations here in the building, not only for us, but for our members as well. What we're really trying to focus on is the restoration of community. People have been alone for a long time. They've been looking at a flat 2-dimensional screen for a long time. And we of course are experiencing some folks more than ready and here, and others who are really still reticent. And now we've got winter coming. So how can we ensure that feeling of community stays with folks, whether they are participating in the fitness program or another event or activity in our building, or still home, but part of our family. And so our lens has really shifted to seeing people where they are and meeting them in ways that they need and want. Yes, we're addressing our business concerns in the background, but the forefront really needs to be that warm welcome, invitation, and support. And we think that that is really the strategy to lead us towards a brighter future.
Awesome. Thanks, Addie. Carrie, what about you? What do you think will be the top trends for next year?
Yeah, I think, and it just depends on what you're looking at as far as trends go, because we could talk about different things, but clearly one of the top ones is the continuation of virtual, and whatever that looks like to everyone. And I'm sure we could have a whole conversation on that. We can go into that as much as you want, Taylor, but but then also realizing the childcare trends and the need for more and more childcare in areas. I don't know about everybody else, but a lot of our mom pop places that were childcare have closed. So our families are struggling to find people to watch their children. And then, in that, some families been helping out, but then you throw COVID in the mix and then they're afraid to watch the kids, or somebody comes exposed and then it just rocks their world all again and it implodes. So really those are two of the big ones there that we haven't kind of talked about a little bit about strategy. So
Adam, what about you? What do you think will be the top trends?
Yeah, and so I think trends are really becoming more regionalized. I can tell you that, from a membership perspective, my Y is not fully back, but we are a lot closer than Dave and Carrie talked through, right? And through no the Ys in Ohio were closed for 71 days last year for the pandemic. And, Dave hears that and he's like, 71 days, geez, you were 9 months, right? So it's a lot different, and so for us, I think, what I'm thinking about now is second level, right? The first set of trends that we saw coming through the pandemic were the virtual, more hybrid things, more virtual offerings. But I think that's leading to a second set, right? So a second wave of trends from the pandemic, which is ultimately we're going to have consumers that are much more discerning. We have folks that are coming back into engagement with communities. They're getting vaccines and they're coming back to more in-person activities. Well, a lot of our core business has been around that health and fitness model, which through a virtual setting, you have access to so many different offerings, completely customizable to what you're looking for. So if you're re-entering into a place like a Y or a JCC, you're going to have a little bit more discernment as a consumer to the different activities, the different classes, the different weights, and all of the different things that are involved in that bundle for a membership. And so I think we're going to have consumers that are very, very much more discerning than they were previous to the pandemic because of the options that are available virtually. And so I think that's going to be one trend that we just have to really think through of how do we work with these discerning customers.
Awesome, thanks. Dave, what about you?
Taylor, I'm so glad you started with the other three people first, because I honestly am not sure what the trends are going to be. But they all shared some great ones that I agree with. But to add to that list, I think that the trend is going to be for YMCAs, JCCs, community spaces to start to be built larger, so that we could factor in the social distancing, so that we could factor in people having large gatherings and being able to do it safely. I do think there's a desire as well as a need for people to congregate together. And I think there's an expectation that people have that, hey, when are we going to get back to normal? And so I think that's one of the reasons why we see the Group X classes being popular, because people want to socialize with other people. I know folks have virtual options. I know that, everyone talks about Peloton. And so now people are at home with their Peloton, but there's only so much you being isolated and by yourself. As a human being, we weren't designed to just go it alone. We're designed to interact with other people. So I think the trend is going to start moving towards how you bring in groups of people, as opposed to trying to get a person on a treadmill, a bicycle, and so on and so forth. And I think it's going to take some time, but I do think we're going to move in that direction. I don't think another trend, I guess this, for us is maybe is a trend that we don't want to see. I do think we're going to continue to see a trend of people approaching their wellness differently, meaning it's not strictly go to the YMCA. It's, I'm going to do something from home. I'm going to do something virtually. I'm going to use the park. I'm going to go to the Y. It's going to be all of the above. as opposed to this direct path that we saw pre-COVID. And I think that's going to be a trend that continues for some time.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. You all kind of touched on virtual, which is a huge trend. A lot of facilities kind of had to rush into virtual offerings. They were kind of forced to go into virtual. So now a lot of facilities are kind of reimagining what that looks like long term. Could you all just kind of share what your virtual options are? Will you have them long term? Are they still temporary? Kind of, do you have any strategies with your virtual offerings? And Adam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so we are just launching into our virtual offerings. And so our Y is not one that engaged early in the pandemic with recording our instructors and getting into that side of it. And so we've recently executed a contract with Y360 and are utilizing that platform to engage with our members and our community. And so we are beginning with having it be an add-on to our traditional membership. We've also added a virtual only membership. The second layer to that engagement strategy is going to be next year, bringing in instructorless group exercise classes. So utilizing the Y360 platform within our group exercise studios so that we can have sort of a constant flow of group exercise classes, even if we don't have enough instructors or enough participants to justify bringing a new instructor in. That will allow us to help meet members where they are, to have some customizable options for them for the time and day that they're looking to come in and the classes they're looking to participate with. But it will also help our facility be a little bit more full and more utilized throughout the day, especially during our low times from a peak usage standpoint.
Awesome. Thank you. Carrie, what about you?
So yeah, we all focus on a lot of the times the negatives that came out of COVID, but there was so much positive that came out of it. And one of the things is obviously virtual, because we were already talking about it, but something that have taken us, because of course you don't want to put anything out there that's not quality, that are up to your standards that you would want it to be. So you'd spend 6 months to a year trying to figure it all out when we were pushed into it, and had to figure it out as we went. And we, I believe, had it up and running within 3 to 4 days after we closed, with starting with just some Facebook Live. Then we moved to Zoom. And now we work with a professional platform. It's not Y360. And for some reason, it is totally escaping me, and I'm so sorry. The platform that we used to record, because of course now, I don't think it's acceptable to have these kind of like thrown together things. At first, I think it was, but now it's like, okay, you should have something professional put out there. So we have that saves them and everything. And then we have a whole section on our website that everything is stored on. So, and we do plan on continuing to do that, trying to figure out how we ended up getting a grant for about $30,000 from a local foundation, just specifically for virtual Y, which was good because we hired somebody part-time to be able to kind of catalog those workouts, because you think there's a few of them going every day. So to make those look nice and easy to find. So we did get that grant. So we do plan on extending it, but yeah, trying to figure out how we can just grant member access to it as a member benefit, or if we are going to charge separately for it and have a separate fee. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, but we only have so much staff and so many hours in the day and want to do those things. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with everything. But it definitely, I mean, it saved us big time, because there were a lot of people that said, I continue to pay my membership dues because of the virtual options. So
I think a lot of facilities, their members were very thankful that they were still able to work out, even if it was virtually. So yeah.
Yeah, and just one other thing, Taylor, and it wasn't just like working out. We had virtual options for our preschool classes and our mentoring program. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention those, because it's not all about working out, but we did offer those as well. So.
Awesome. Addie, what about you? What are your JCC's virtual offerings?
So we did virtual fitness at the sort of, I would say, the height of the pandemic. And honestly, we've really pulled back from that a good amount. In addition to virtual fitness classes, we also have offered a tremendous amount of what we call arts and ideas programming, film screenings, author talks, architectural tours, all of that. Those were really, really popular, but their popularity is definitely waning. People are registering, but not showing. It's not as engaging anymore. And so I think it's given us a bit of a pause to think about, like, really what are we built for and what are our core competencies. And at least in the JCC movement, JCC was really established because Jewish people weren't welcome to work out in other places. But that's not true today. Today, we have a different reality. And I don't know that we really need to be built around the fitness membership program offering, virtual or in person. But we're taking another look at how we can have greatest community impact that also includes health and wellness. So for us, I think we're really putting a pin a bit in the virtual, with the singular exception of some fitness classes for seniors who are really homebound. But I don't think of that as a fitness trend. I think of that as us figuring out during the pandemic how to meet a need that maybe we weren't meeting before. But we're really squarely anchored on, community and connection, and looking to respond to those who are eager to drive in to our agency. And I think, like we've shared, those Group X classes are twice as big as they used to be. So we're just doubling down there and lessening our role in some of the other spaces.
Awesome. Thanks for that perspective, Addie, because I feel a lot of facilities feel obligated to have a virtual offering, even if it's not best for their community members. So it's great to hear that perspective that you're kind of dialing it back.
The other thing I would say is that there's a lot of virtual fitness offerings out there. So like we would hear from people, well, I can pay your monthly membership fee, which at that time was more traditional versus our slimmer model now. But the other rec center, the 2 towns over, I can do it, whatever, unlimited $5 a month. So I'm not, we just didn't feel at home in that space. It didn't really seem to be working for us. So we're going to let other folks do that part.
Awesome. It kind of goes off of what Dave said earlier. There's this new model of fitness. I'm going to work out at the Y or J a few days a week. I'm going to go for a walk on Tuesdays. I'm going to do online Peloton on Wednesdays. But I think that's a new normal that we're heading towards. And as long as your facility can keep your members engaged and see the importance of having a membership with your facilities, that you don't have to add on all these extra things. Dave, we'll go to you. What are your virtual offerings?
So our virtual option is Y360. We were doing it in-house prior to signing on to Y360, and we had modest success with it. We've seen an increase in the usage, but it's not been something where it's a game changer for us in the sense of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people are joining because of it. I think it's been more of a retention for us. We were hoping it would attract people who didn't join the Y just to get engaged with the Y. I think there's some opportunities for that to still happen because part of our challenge now is, we got to get the word out more to people about what Y360 is and get them a little bit more engaged. But I definitely think it's helped us in the retention of our members.
Awesome. Another trend that we've been seeing is kind of this shift from exercise just being fitness related more to a holistic approach where it's more mental health, relaxation, meditation, kind of holistic. Are any of your facilities kind of focusing in on this programming where it's more mental health based and not, obviously you still have exercise classes, but what are you doing to kind of include this new shift of the new exerciser, I would say? Dave, is there any specific programs you're all doing?
They're really outside of the yoga and the Pilates types of classes. We haven't gotten into the wholeness from the mental aspect. It's actually something that we've been exploring because I sat through a presentation, the YMCA of the North, formerly known as Twin Cities Y. They do a fantastic job in that area. So it is something that we're exploring, but we really haven't gotten into that yet.
Addie, what about you?
So for us, I would say our focus on mental health is actually pretty well honed at this point. As an organization, we've had for many, many years a full-time social services department. So we have 3 people, primarily in service to early childhood. We have about 650 kids across our system. So there's a lot of need there in EI intervention and referral requirements and things like that. However, over the course of this period of time, we all have seen and read and perhaps even personally experienced ourselves and our families, the impact on mental health during the pandemic. And we've really tripled down in our staffing up in social services, social workers, recognizing that lots and lots of folks come to us, though we are not expert in mental health, and that is really not our core competency. Folks who are struggling with mental health are coming to the J, and we need to be prepared to meet them where they are. So we've added a 4th full-time member to that team. That team has expanded to serve the agency as a whole, and we have dedicated on-site social workers at every one of our day camps. And we also run a large overnight camp, which has a whole team of social workers. Coming out of last summer, I think the biggest aha was these kids and their teen counselors and young adult counselors not okay. And they really need some extra help, extra hand holding, extra breathers, and some strategies that were not part of our just fabric prior. But we've really seen now how positive of an impact it has to be able to staff up and provide support so that people are then available within themselves to experience the program we're putting in front of them. If you're really struggling internally, it's hard to appreciate and internalize what's in front of you. So we want to make sure that people enjoy, have a great summer, have a wonderful community experience. And if it requires some support of their mental health, then we're here for that too.
Awesome. Carrie, what about you? Is your facility focusing more on this well-being trend that's coming about?
Yes, so I serve on a mental health coalition here in Cranberry Township, and it's basically Butler County wide. And so obviously it's just where I have no experience in, so I rely heavily on a lot of what they have to provide, although they speak in acronyms and I don't understand most of them, but I try to keep up in the meetings and everything. But so what we generally do is try to provide speakers and things like that in sessions and panelists, just like we have here. We've had panel discussions with those professionals that come in on certain topics, and then members are welcome to come to those. So that's kind of where we're focusing. And then I just had some of my team participate in the mental health first aid for youth. And then there's also an adult version of that, but I thought it was really fantastic of what to do there. And then I had the woman that was the leader of that send me some resources, because I think what we deal mostly here is not maybe those first aid situations of where someone is in a crisis mode, but we deal more with youth that are already diagnosed with mental health disorders. And okay, so how do we support them in the programs that we have them in? How do we redirect them? How do we help them? Just basically overall support them while they're here. So just looking into those resources a little bit more, because yes, camp was an eye opener for us as to just showing where these kids are, even just with coping skills on now that they have a structured day, because a lot of them were at home, were doing virtual, and they kind of had a lax schedule. And let's face it, if you're a parent, as I am, your child does better when there is some structure to the day. So it was they went from nothing to here's the structure of the day. So our youth and family director tried to do a good balance of okay, here's some time where it's unstructured, but hey, we have to bounce back into this. But yeah, so the coping skills has definitely been interesting.
Thanks for that insight. Adam, what about you? Is there anything you'd like to share on this topic?
Yeah, I'm so happy that you brought this topic up, because I think it is so vitally important right now for where we're at as a society. And so when I think about the why, I think about our mission. And I look at that Y logo and Dave's background there. And in that logo, you see a triangle. And in that triangle, it's an equilateral triangle, and it represents the holistic development of a person. And that's what the Y strives to do. We improve spirit, mind, and body. And for decades, the Y has focused a lot on that body side, and the mind has been sort of underappreciated from our organization, just speaking in general terms. And so for me, it's a huge component of where I think we need to go, especially given all of the negative impacts that the pandemic has had on our community members. Where I'm starting with my organization is I'm starting with my staff team, because in order for my Y to really adequately work in the space with mental health, in whatever regard that we're going to be doing that, I need my staff to really have a better understanding, but also to be aware of themselves, that it's okay for them to have struggles with their mental health and for them to address that. We had a full-time leaders retreat. It was a one-day retreat a month ago. I partnered with the Mental Health America of Licking County in our service area, brought in that executive as a speaker, and we spent the first part of the day retreat just talking about our mental health, and I'm really learning some different coping strategies. And so I'm going to continue on that path for these next coming months to make sure that my team understands and is aware of things to look for, especially as it relates to youth. There was a recent assessment within my service area that revealed that 14% of teenagers within the past 12 months have had serious thoughts of suicide, and 7% of teenagers have had at least one attempt. 7%. That number is just so staggeringly high. It's upsetting. And so I think that there is absolutely a space for my Y to come in to this opportunity to help improve mental health, especially for youth. I think that the pandemic has had some real impacts on youth in particular. And so while I don't know exactly what the programs and services are going to be that we're going to offer, I know that there's something we can do. And so I've worked with the YMCA Foundation. Our Y is lucky to have an endowment and some trustees on our foundation. And I worked some funding for mental health into the budget from the foundation for next year. And so we are still exploring what exactly that's going to look like, but we are going to begin making a much stronger commitment to supporting that.
That's awesome. Just watching all the facilities over the course of the pandemic adapt and serve their communities the best way possible, I'm interested to see what innovative ideas come about on mental health and well-being and wellness, because J's and Y's have done some amazing things. So I'm interested to see what's in the future. And kind of going off of that, we're about out of time. So I just kind of want to go around and give everyone the opportunity to share just one piece of advice for operators for the next year. I know everyone keeps saying the new normal. I don't like that term, but it's just reality is what it is. We aren't going to go back to how things were. So kind of what advice do you have to carry operators into the new reality? And Carrie, let's start with you.
My biggest thing is just don't stop being creative. And, like I know many of us have said, especially Addie is really honed in on it, is this has made us think differently about our Ys, our Js, our community centers, that, I can't staff that I have 100% of my members that I had before, right? So you got to look at it differently. And it's just have those creative sessions with your teams of just looking at things like, hey, how do we support staff with their mental health? How do we support our members? When we look at that triangle of mind, body, and spirit, make a list of each thing that's in there, and just be creative. And that's my biggest thing, is just be creative and don't settle for status quo. I hate status quo. My team knows that. It's not okay. And don't use COVID as an excuse. I'm over it. That's what I have.
Awesome. Thanks. Addie, what about you? What would be your last piece of advice?
So I'm going to riff on Carrie's theme, and I'm going to share that I think you need to not be afraid to make a bold decision and absolutely get away from but this is how we've done it. Like the worst phrase in any environment, but this is how we've always done it. And I measure that. Don't be hesitant to make a bold shift or change if that's what you feel is the right thing to do. And to support that, it is important to ask people what they're looking for, to gather your data and metrics, to review your trends, to really have substance behind the decisions that you make. But it's okay to do something that seems crazy. It just seems crazy. And I'll tell you, I had some colleagues of mine come in who have much more bigger fitness operations than we do here in Chicago within the JCC movement. And I showed them, I said, like, what do you think of this? And this is what I'm charging. And they're like, this is great. You should charge more. I'm like, I'm not charging more. This is my plan. This is what I'm doing. I'm sticking with it. And so far, so good. But we had a lot of backup and data to support and drive this decision, and a lot of community and board conversations so that we're all on the same page. But my big word of advice is I echo Carrie and just do it.
Thanks, Addie. Adam, what about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with Carrie and Addie. What I would add to it is measure first, right? Measure twice, cut once. Is nonprofits, right? I think we exist to fill gaps between what for-profits and government provide. And so I've been a large proponent for needs assessments for more than a decade now. And I'll just advocate for that again. I mean, the needs of our communities have radically changed since the onset of COVID. And if there have not been assessments done in your local community within your service areas for the communities that you are seeking to engage with, don't hesitate from taking the lead in your community of assessing what those needs are, and then address what those needs are with programs and services. It's a tried and true method. It's a boring answer, but it has worked for however many years it has for the Y and JCC. So I would just say yes to just do it, but measure first.
All right, Dave, take us home. What's your last piece of advice?
Well, I think my colleagues and good friends here have said it very, very well. I would agree with everything that's already been said. I would just add one other perspective, a little bit of a different slant on it, and that would be that self-care is the best care. We as operators, we as staff and the leaders of organizations, we've got to take care of ourselves, and we've got to encourage our staff to take care of themselves so that they can accomplish all of these things, because people are exhausted right now. That's the pink elephant in the room. A lot of time people are tired and they're really frustrated and sometimes not optimistic because there's spikes and all of this different kind of stuff. So I think it's important that we remind ourselves that self-care is the best care, and this way we can be more productive as operators.
Awesome. Well, panelists, thank you so much. There's a lot of great insights. I definitely have a lot of story ideas from this roundtable, so thank you for that. Attendees, thank you for attending, and thank you, Butterfly, for being our sponsor. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Taylor.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.